Good morning. You have reached Daily Devotional with Red Moon Eagle, and I've got Astra here with me. And this is a banked video for the Daily Devotional series. My name is Red Moon Eagle, and this is Elemental Healing's Daily Devotional with Red Moon Eagle. I don't know what day it is, I don't know what time of the year it is, but I am recording this for future use. And I wish you all in the future a beautiful day. I'm going to start with some breath with the tuning fork today because I need to really be in breath today. So I'm going to share that with you. You ready, Astra? Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. One of the things that you can do is if you take the tip of your tongue and you put it on the top of your mouth, touch your soft palate. As you breathe in, you can change the position of your tongue and move back. And one of the things that I do when I really want to get deep breath and deep connection to my electrical system through breath is I get my tongue all the way back to where there's a hard part of your mouth, and then at the very back, or in my mouth, halfway back, there's a soft palate in the back. And I get to the breath where I can touch my soft palate with my tongue. One of the things that happens when I do tuning fork work is that my body wants to move as I'm breathing. I like to release things. Sometimes a big yawn happens. So I work through the mouth, and I usually start with neutral position. My tongue is flat in my mouth when I breathe in. And then I start with my tongue behind my teeth, and I slowly work it back. And at the very back, as far back as I can get it, through both the inhale and the exhale. And the exhale, I keep my mouth closed by the time I get all the way in the back. I can usually keep my mouth open for release or like an ooh push. I'd say about halfway back is when I start breathing out through my nose again so that I can hold the tongue position. Your pineal gland electrical connection, when you put the tongue in the soft palate when you're breathing through, creates a circuit within your endocrine and central nervous system. And it's a powerful breath work exercise I do a combination of several things. I work through the natural numbers. So I breathe through all the natural numbers, 1, 5, and then I kind of go through a transformation sequence, which is a little bit more of an advanced technique with Body of 9. So I encourage you in the future, when that course becomes available, you take that course. So let's get started with our cards today. Today we're starting with Sobek, Union and Power. This is an ambivalent divinity, both malignant and benign. His ferocity is able to ward off evil, at the same time defend the innocent. His name derives from unite, the dismembered limbs of Osiris. Sobek is usually portrayed as a crocodile or a crocodile-headed man. He heals the souls who were wounded or killed in battle, restoring their health, sight, and all their senses. He represents the authority of decision-making power in action and implementation of projects. Under the influence of Sobek, you have a sound base on which to build large business-like enterprises. Do not stop. Your effort will bear fruit and allow you to gain power. And our animal spirit guidebook animal is the elk. Elk. Stable, resilient, headstrong, the father. The great elk represents the earth element in its masculine form. This means it provides underlying support and stability amidst life's many changes. An elk personality, whether male or female, is fully established in themselves and knows their core values. They become known and respected for acting in ways that uphold those values. Sometimes the elk's ego can become inflated, but for the most part, they make damn good fathers, mothers, lovers, and friends. The world needs more elk energy. When in balance, supportive, kind, and consistent. When out of balance, pretentious, high, and mighty. To bring into balance, eat and drink more consciously. Wonderful. I love how the sun is in that. I've really, in this solar cycle that I'm in, I'm really finding that the universe is bringing me a great deal more solar knowledge from different cultures around the world, and it's beautiful. Luminous warrior, more planets. The give away is the gift you offer to life. Luminous warrior is 32, not 23. Haha, my dyscalculia kicked in there, guys. It's a good example of when that happens. Okay, well, I'm going to start over. Luminous warrior. I got the right page now. Luminous warrior. The luminous warrior has no enemies in the world or the next. He is impeccable in word and deed. His focus on his light rather than on what hides in the dark. Since he casts no shadow, he is the radiant as the sun and can transform his most terrible enemy into his ally. His power comes not from the sword, but from speaking his truth at all costs. The invitation of the luminous warrior reminds you that it is important to focus on your power, wisdom, and beauty. Do not be seduced by what seems wrong with you or the world. Remember that intention follows attention. So focus on your positive traits. Feed your light with more light until you feel truly empowered. Then there will be little need for action as you resolve all situations from within. The medicine of the luminous warrior. You are being tempted by your emotions to Let's start over. The medicine of the luminous warrior. Are you being tempted by your emotions to follow your lower instincts? Are you being invited to enter into a quarrel with someone? Put your sword away. This is not the time for battle. Your enemy is not who you think it is. Do not act from a place of anger that will damage your relationships and hurt the ones you care for. Find the truth hiding in your heart that will affirm your instincts for peace rather than for war. Oh, I love that. His power comes not from the sword, but speaking truth at all costs. Do not be seduced by what seems wrong with you or with the world. Remember that intention follows attention. Focus on the positive. Feed your light with more light until you feel empowered. I love that. But I also love how they address the shadow in this. Do not act from a place of anger that will damage your relationships. The enemy is not who you think it is. Find the truth hiding in your heart that will affirm your instinct for peace rather than for war. Oh, I love that. Luminous warrior. Okay, so what do we have here? We have the god. It's okay, Astra. We have the god Sobek, who is ambivalent, malignant, and benign. His name derives from unite. He heals the souls who are wounded or killed in battle. He represents authority and decision-making power and action. I love that. So action, decision-making, union, and power. Crocodile head, Sobek. Oh, it's beautiful. And then we have the elk. And the elk is support and stability amidst the changes, acting in a way that upholds the values. Oh, I love that. Okay. So it seems like I have a couple things going on here, right? So Sobek is union and power, decision making. Neither good nor bad. Decisions are just decisions. The energy of moving forward. The elk, connected to earth, stability, following your ethics, following what you know to be right. And then the sun is there because the sun's come up a couple times in the last 2 days. So I want to focus on the sun part of this too, which is the revitalization of sun, the nuclear power of the sun, life-giving force of the sun, and the strength of elk, that masculine-ish element. And then the luminous warrior, right action, focusing on moving forward with positive intentions, right? Speaking truth, whether good or bad, it just is. Just like Sobek, it's neither positive or negative, it just is. But following your ethic, following your ethos. And I like this card, Luminous Warrior, because though it talks about Luminous Warrior is the one who is positive, bringing in the light, that sun halo behind that Luminous Warrior is a powerful image. One of the things that bubbles up with these cards is this conversation I've had recently with people, a couple of people actually, and it's come at me several different ways, so I want to make sure that I address it since it's come up with the cards now too, is the idea that, you know, when you have a relationship with someone and that relationship, you're moving along and you are completely unaware that the other person that you have this relationship with is struggling with something, okay? And it's happened to me a lot, and I know a couple people that it happens to fairly frequently, where the person you have a relationship with, whether it be a friend or a coworker or just somebody you're loosely affiliated with in your friend group, say that person's going through a lot of stuff, and you've been in this relationship, I don't know, 10, 12 years, 5, 6, 10, 12 years, you know, a long time. And all of a sudden, it seems as though there's a miscommunication. And you go, something seems off with this, so I'm going to reach out. And you reach out, and the person says, basically calls you a whole bunch of names. You're toxic, you're this, you're a taker, you know, like very much like turning on you like a viper, right? And you're left feeling, oh my God, I didn't even know that you perceived it that way. I didn't know I was doing these things. I am so sorry. I would like to repair that friendship. But at the same time, you can't say those things. You're in shock. You're in complete shock. You have no idea how this came about. Your perception of those events versus their perception of those events are very different. And this is why this is an example, not the only example, but this is an example why I encourage everybody to have a counselor. Because sometimes when you can go and talk through it with a counselor can give you a perception of their perception of the sequence of events from an outside perspective. So being able to relate the story of what happened from a neutral place, not from a place of, oh my God, this person is treating me like shit and I don't deserve this, right? So, because to work on your shadow, you have to be able to look at sequences of events with neutrality. You can't have yourself, even though it happened to you, yourself is not tied up in it to be able to learn from the shadow side of these experiences, okay? So I'll use an example that this has happened to me. I had someone that I really loved and cared about really lashed out at me over something that those sequence of events that were related back to me were not a big deal, not even remotely a big deal. And their perception of that sequence of events, because they weren't even there, was skewed from their own place of where they were in their mind and their heart. And that's okay. And I was truly taken aback and shocked and completely like on this trauma response of I have to protect myself. And this person tried to have a conversation with me, and I wouldn't have a conversation with them unless I had witnesses, because I truly felt through the hostility of the words that I did not feel safe. Not that I was worried that this person would physically harm me, but because of my past trauma with somebody who was very verbally abusive and then physically abusive, I do have a tendency to overlap the two, and I know that that happens with me. I physiologically have a physiological response to verbal abuse because of my childhood trauma. So, in my experience, it took many years, almost a decade, to reconnect with that person in a place where they were in a place of reflection and having done shadow work. And I had nearly a decade of additional experiences that helped me be able to come back to the table with this person. But the light and luminous part of this card is the part where you can objectively look at, because when it first happened, I was not objective. I was not able to be objective. All I knew is I knew that I didn't do anything wrong, but I didn't know how to untangle my knowingness from my physiological terror and my emotional fear and grief and sadness and hurt from being attacked. Because I felt attacked. I felt, why didn't we have a conversation? Why was this an attack? It was such a disjunct in my consciousness. And I held on to the luminous warrior of myself. And I held on to the elk, and I held on to the moral right, that's not really the right words I'm looking for, but my own personal ethos, right? Like, I knew I was going through a trauma response, but I also knew that I had not said or done anything wrong. So the perception from the other person was also through a manipulative lens. So there was a third person that created a manipulative situation. And I gave grace and I gave compassion. And I was like, I forgive that person, and I forgive the person that's my friend that is attacking me. I forgave them. And in my forgiveness, that allowed my own Sobek energy, my own divine union and power of understanding to be able to say, okay, I know that I'm having a trauma response and I am deeply grieving and I'm deeply in a place of fear, and I'm going to have to work through that. And it took several years to work through that. And I was going through all my own stuff. And I had a counselor, and I worked with the counselor over and over and over again to hold my union and power, hold my barrier, hold my strength of elk with sun, with the light of not a hierarchy of toxic positivity. I'm not better than that person is, or better than that third party that misconstrued it. I am not better than them. I really want to say that so you can hear it. I'm not better than anybody. But that luminous warrior of self, with my counselor, I was able to talk through the experience. And one of the things that I learned from that is I really, really have to work on my physiological trauma response to things. And that's what we worked on. We worked on that for several years, and I still work on that. I mean, I have a new counselor now, and she's amazing. And we work on that all the time. Anytime I have a physiological trauma response, we take extra time and we work on that. Because when you grow up in childhood with physical abuse and emotional, mental, spiritual abuse, your physical body has to work through that. You have to work on that. And when I worked on that with the counselor in the past, one of the things that I kept coming back to is, and I would say it over and over and over again, and my counselor was so amazed, and they pointed out repeatedly, they were like, nobody does this in the first couple sessions. This is like years of work, and you're doing it right out the gate, which is, I forgive them. I forgive all parties involved, and I forgive myself, because we are human and we make mistakes. And maybe I could have said something differently. Maybe I could have not said something at all. Maybe I could have avoided that person altogether in that circumstance. Maybe. And it's not a what if and shame, regret, disappointment. It's if I am confronted with a similar situation, I'm going to choose differently. But moving forward, I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive myself for whatever actions took place. And in forgiving myself and forgiving them and giving them grace for whatever it is they're going through, and that person was going through a lot. I mean, it's a lot that person was going through. And I was going through a lot. Oh my goodness, I was going through probably I've had 3 big gauntlets in my life, and that time was a big gauntlet. And I cannot minimize it and dismiss it, because it was extraordinarily impactful in my life. And this person that really attacked me was also going through a lot of things. So I don't blame them. I'm not mad at them. And I forgave them within weeks and months of the event. And I also forgave myself. And I gave myself grace to still create that elk energy, that sun energy of holding to the ethic, holding to the barrier of, until that person is in a place where they can have gone through that shadow work, there's nothing that I can do in this relationship. All I can do is give them power and grace, hold my power in my union, be disenfranchised from their trauma, right? Like really disassociate, really recognize that, and not disassociate, but disconnect. I think that's the word I'm looking for. The disconnect between, this is my life and that is your life, and you're going through things that are not the same as what I'm going through. And I'm going to give you all the grace and all the love and all the compassion and all the light of the sun and all of the understanding that that's your stuff and this is my stuff. And maybe the relationship's over. Maybe it will never be repaired. Okay. I'm still going to love them and give them grace and give them compassion and give them that energy of the sun. If you look at these cards, sun, sun, sun. The sun is a constant. It gives us life. It is life-giving energy. It is the electrical energy connection that we have in life to our universe and to our world. There's a lot more I could go into with the sun, but I think that the sun pattern is quite clear in these cards. And sun energy is constant, and it's the light that gives us purpose, right? Like when we talk about being positive and being in the light, I think of the sun. And the earth turns and the sun goes down in our sky, and then there's the darkness, there's the shadow. But that shadow is that beautiful feminine energy. And the sun is that masculine energy, right? In most cultures. And so, not all of them, but if I'm looking at shadow as that strong feminine and sun as strong masculine, as the elk shows us, the greatest gift that I can give my friends is my ability to shine the sunlight, shine within that masculine energy that I hold, and give them grace and compassion and balance. Because that's what that elk card talked about. Go back to the beginning, listen to me read it. I hope you all have a beautiful day. I hope you all have an amazing, positive, sun-filled, light-filled day. And Astra and I give you a blessing of love and light, and we will see you in prayer again. Blessed be.